Welcome to Content with Character, the weekly podcast that'll give you the momentum you need to create content with more ease, clarity, and laughter. I'm your host, content copywriter Emily Aborn, and I'm all about unconventional marketing approaches. I believe in your big ideas, and I'm excited to help you share them in a way that's distinctly you. Visibility. It's what this podcast is all about. It's about being seen. It's about showing up. It's a gift. And it's not without its challenges. I've experimented in my own business in so many ways with visibility and connecting with others, and I've lived to tell about it. So today I'm sharing some of the lessons that I've learned along the way in hopes that they'll help you too. Hi, welcome back to the Content with Character podcast. I'm excited and also simultaneously a little nervous about today, but I think nervous is a good thing. I think it means I'm fired up about today's topic, and there's some stuff that is a little bit scary to put out there. If you listened to last week's episode where I talked about sparking creativity and finding inspiration, first of all, thank you for listening. Secondly, sorry the audio was so crazy. It had like all these weird gaps in it, and I do not know why. But on that note, I highly recommend the app Overcast as a listening app because holy smokes, I used to use Stitcher, okay? And then I switched to Overcast because Stitcher is closing down shop and I needed to find something new. And I really need like an organized app. Like the Apple Podcast app just does not do it for me. I go there to write my reviews, but I listen on something that's a little bit more organized. And I am loving Overcast. It's so super organized. It has this really cool smart listen option where it adjusts the audio to sound like the symphony of 1,000 angels. And it also cuts out that empty space. So actually, I was able to listen to the episode without the space. It sounded great for me, but I realized it was really messed up for a lot of you audio-wise, and I do not know what happened to me. Like, for the life of me, I do not know what happened. So thank you for bearing with me regardless. Today, if you hear any weird noise, it's just the lovely, beautiful birds outside my window because I have my window open. It's sunny here in New Hampshire. It's amazing. Okay, now let's get into the actual, also to talk to the actual content of last week's episode. You might remember one of my ideas for sparking creativity, one of my ideas for generating some inspiration was to actually dig into past content. Dig into past content, dust it off, and make it new. And in true Emily style, that is what today's episode is. I practice everything I ask you to consider, or I will blatantly tell you otherwise if I'm not going to ever do it. So today I dusted off a blog that I wrote on this very topic a couple years ago, and I'm infusing it with fresh perspective, new ideas, more experience, and I'm even more excited than when I shared it the first time in a blog form, which I was pretty darn excited about. I don't know, for me, it's podcast, blog, they just are so closely tied with excitement. Okay, I wanted to give you a little peek behind the scenes today at some visibility efforts of my own, both recent and also a little bit further back, and talk to how, yes, visibility really does help to expand our businesses, but not just our business has benefits. It also helps you with your own personal growth because I think that at times, many times, visibility requires you to be a little bit uncomfortable. And as such, it can propel you forward into lands personal growth-wise you never even knew existed. And it can also propel you forward into places with your business that you never knew existed. And I really want to talk about let's call it the pros and cons and all the in-betweens of actually visibility. Like, what does it actually mean when you decide to get visible and show up? So real quick, before we jump into that, I want to also remind you about my podcast listener review contest, which is happening right now through July 31st, 2023. I'm going to pick a winner on August 1st and announce it in the next Content with Character episode. My winner is going to get a hand-picked treat from my heart to yours, a little content creativity goodie, if you will. So anybody who has already left me a review, you're going to be entered to win. But I also would love new loving reviews And you do have to do that on the Apple podcast. So here's one that I'm talking about. Like, this is an example of a beautifully loving review. This is by No Nicknames. I went into business for myself for a lot of reasons. What I've learned is that every part of it lies in the paradox of, quote, there are best practices, and, quote, I'm me and I want my business to reflect that. Content with Character speaks directly to this paradox. It asks me to check in with myself before not only marketing my business, but every step of the way as I build and evolve my business. Oh my gosh. Talk about loving. Thank you to No Nicknames. You are awesome. That review was amazing. And you took the words literally right out of my mouth. So if you have not taken time to write me a review yet, you know who you are. All you have to do is go to your little Apple Podcast app, send it forth, and it really, really helps me, and I really appreciate it, just like I super appreciate you being here in the first place. Your reviews help this podcast get more visibility. And in this online world, we all need a little bit more of that. We all get by with a little help from our friends and our dogs. Let's not forget our dogs. Okie dokie. Let's do this, shall we? You know how everyone is always saying, well, I don't know if everyone's always saying this to you, but there's all this stuff I see out there that's you got to keep showing up. Keep showing up. First of all, what does that even mean? And secondly, oh my God, I hope you just spit out your Cheerios hearing me stumble on that word. Okay, secondly, do they actually know how hard that is? Do they have any idea how hard it is to quote unquote keep showing up? Especially if you're somebody who far prefers hibernation to showing up 99% of your life. Hand raised over here. That's me. Okay. But there is a common saying that goes, 80% of success in life is just showing up. That's all you have to do is just show up and you'll be successful. There's also a million quotes, positive little reminders scattered all over the entrepreneurial spaces that if you just keep on showing up, everything is going to be okay. And I do think that there's a level of truth to this, okay? I think that consistency and this slow road versus the fast track mentality, small steps, building blocks, that is truly the way to go. That is the piece of truth in here. But also, we're looking around right now, especially if you're in the world of social media at all, and you do see people completely successful doing otherwise. There are these Insta sensations that didn't have to show up very long, and they exist. And I think it can be really, really discouraging when you are that person who is dedicated and committed and loyal and hardworking and showing up and really giving it your all every single day to show up time and time and time and time again, and you feel like you're talking into a void. It kind of makes you not want to keep showing up. Am I right? And so for myself, I've had to kind of reframe this. I've reframed keep showing up to this. Keep listening. Keep paying attention to what keeps you curious, what lights you up, what engages you, what your strengths are, who you love to work with, where you need to grow, and staying really open to the information that is coming both from me internally and also externally, so that I can be intentional with how, when, and where I'm showing up. Whether that is writing a blog post or making a client phone call, when we show up, we can do it more intentionally. And I also think that part of showing up is really showing up for yourself. It's knowing, you know what, no matter what happens from me being in this place, I am worth it. I am worth showing up for. Every single day, I am worth waking up and showing up for. And so no matter how you're showing up or where you're showing up or what you're showing up doing, you are showing up first and foremost for you. So now that I'm going to roll my little showing up soapbox away, but I think we've defined it sufficiently, let's talk specifically about, as entrepreneurs, what it looks like to quote unquote show up to be visible. My little visibility journey really started back in 2016 when I started getting out of my little box and meeting people, making connections, trying new things, and indulging myself in new opportunities. And I've done a lot of things since then in the past 7 years. I've thrown some spaghetti at the wall, some penne pasta, little elbow macaroni, just to call it a real thorough effort and give it a fair shake. And while it's been an ongoing process, and I don't think that I'm ever going to stop being focused on this discovery process for myself and what really feels good and what really works, I have really started to understand the areas of visibility that are worth my time and energy, and maybe the ones that aren't. And then focusing on the things that matter more for giving it a really good amount of time. And I want that for you too. As you've heard me say many times before, visibility is the different array of ways that we get our message out and get seen. And, I like to call it connection. I believe that connection is really the heartbeat of visibility, because I don't think it does you any good to be seen if you're not also seeing other people. If you're spending all your time being seen by the wrong people, that's not really that helpful. All right. So some visibility activities for you, like you probably already know what they are, but just giving you some examples of what you might already be doing: showing up on social media, investing in SEO for your website, posting blogs to your website regularly, attending networking events, getting on podcasts, getting guest speaking engagements, hosting events. It can take many, many different forms, but reminder, it always, no matter what the form is, no matter what the vehicle is, it always comes back to creating connection. Now, over the past year and a half, I've really focused specifically on visibility in guest podcast opportunities, having my own podcasts, workshops and presentations, small groups, hosting events, showing up on social media and email, networking in new groups and online communities, cleaning up my branding and messaging, submitting articles for publication, new collaborations, facilitating opportunities like office hours and things like that, and SEO for my website and my blogs. It's a lot, and I want you to hear that. Like, I was doing a lot. Some of these I've tried, I've practiced, and then I've let them go. And some of them I've kept on focusing on. So for example, I'm not really doing a ton of events right now. I'm taking a big, long break from doing a lot of events. And I'm also not really looking for new collaborations. I'm not looking for new networking groups. I'm easing up a bit on social media stuff for reasons I will get into as we keep on going. And for me, right now, after I look at this whole span of visibility activities, which I could speak to any one of those, but right now I'm focusing on going deeper into what is really working for me, what I'm really good at, where I feel super duper connected, and not spreading myself too thin and going as wide as possible in every single direction, because I've really learned what lights me up, and I want to delve deeper into those things. And as I've done that, I've kind of selected, my focus is on workshops. It's on guesting on podcast and speaking. Those are just some examples. I am going really heavily focused on SEO for my website and my blog. So there are just some things that I've said, you know what, these are the things I'm really, really going to focus my time and attention on, because these are what A, light me up, but also B, what are effective for me. And I want you to hear that there are seasons to our visibility activities. So sometimes we are going to focus more heavily on certain areas. It's a bit like an experiment. It's a testing ground, which is why I think that you do have to be consistent when you show up. You have to give things a fair shake. Like, put them in the little visibility petri dish, give them some time, give them that proper time, and see what happens. And as I say that, there are things that you definitely do not need to give a fair shake, because you're going to dive in and immediately be able to tell that's not right for you, which that's also been happening to me more often lately. Like, I find myself in the wrong places and wrong spaces. I'm like, I got to get out of here. And I feel like this about a lot of new social media things too, like the social media shiny objects. I'm just like, oh my goodness. I'm not saying social media couldn't get me a ton of clients, but as of now, it doesn't. And part of that is because I'm not willing to play the game. I'm not really willing to play all the social media games. Like, I'm not interested in doing reels. I'm not going to be hanging out on threads 24/7. And I'm just not really into like being trendy online. It's not for me. It doesn't fit for me. So after watching, feeling what it's like to show up in different places, I've really been intentional about choosing where I'm going to work on my social media and be consistent there. And there are some select groups. There's LinkedIn, and then I'm pretty savvy on Facebook. And like, call me old-fashioned, but that's really where I'm able to focus my time and energy. And more than that, once I start going into more platforms than that, I kind of like my brain breaks. And I think it's worth asking yourself realistically both what you want out of this thing, like what do I want out of this platform? What do I want out of this new social media tool, this shiny object, and also what it takes from you. And then like you kind of have to look at like, all right, given those two factors, what kind of focus and attention does this really warrant from me? I do think that you need to give whatever visibility efforts you choose a little bit of an experimental phase. So I'm definitely going to circle back to that. But it really does take time. It really does take tweaks. Lesson number 1, visibility takes time. It's not just like a one and done deal. It takes consistency and follow through. And that can be really frustrating. It can be really frustrating when you don't hear back from all of those podcasters that you pitched to, or the publisher of the magazine said he'd get back to you and he hasn't, or you feel like you are showing up consistently on social media and it's not paying you off and giving you the ROI that you want. And you might get really, really discouraged. Sometimes you go to networking event after networking event after networking event and you like still feel like you're not meeting the people you want to be. And to that, I just want to say like, keep trying and tweaking and adapting because visibility does take time and it can take longer than you expect. It tends to not just happen. It requires a level of effort and commitment, reaching out, putting yourself out there. And well, of course, we do hear these stories of overnight success and fame. It's not how it usually goes for most of us. Most of us have to start by, like I said, showing up really for yourself first and then take action steps to connect with the people that you want to connect with. So it takes a little bit of time, takes some experimentation or tweaking, if you will. And I think that with time, your experimentation goggles on, and with consistency, it gets easier and easier. Like you're literally building these muscles. And so every step you take, it just builds upon the last. Okay, lesson number 2, you surprise yourself when you get visible. When you decide to get visible, you will find some surprises. One thing I've learned is that there's really like this level of boldness when you decide to show up. And I don't think that it's actually confidence at first. I think that even if you are a person who doesn't have confidence, you can take a courageous action step. And the confidence kind of comes after that courageous step. Like as I have courageously reached out to people and places, I thought, sometimes I think to myself, they're definitely going to turn me down. And when they don't, it's really a lovely surprise. And that helps to build my confidence. So you see that you take the action and you build your confidence as you keep on going. I've also been turned down and told no. And like, I just have to keep on going. I've been surprised that I do have the ability to do more than I ever thought possible. And I think that is something that happens when you continuously show up, both for yourself and being visible. I think that you surprise yourself with how much creativity you have inside of you and how proud you can feel of yourself as you get new ideas and you travel to new places. Like you have an infinite well of creativity inside of you, and it can be amazing when you decide to start showing up and using it. Sometimes I've been surprised when things do not go the way that I hoped. I've been surprised at some of my own feelings that come up around experiences, around expectations. I've been really surprised at just how strong of a response I have to certain things. And I've also been surprised at how disappointment and discouragement has felt. Things that maybe I didn't think would bother me before, things that have happened in relationships, both for the better and for the worse. I think that when you decide to show up and get visible, you make a ton of great friends. You can make a ton of connections. and make really, really, like, I think you can have amazing life-changing consequences from showing up and getting visible. And I also think that you can sometimes lose people and you can lose connections. And so there's a lot of surprises. Like, you just never know what's going to happen. I've come face to face with like fears and anxieties I didn't even know I had. All of those things I think start to surface when you decide to get visible. And that's why I was saying at the beginning that this is business growth. Yes. And this is also personal growth. And that is why you have to stay anchored in showing up for yourself in addition to just like, I'm doing this for my business. And I think that as you start moving through this, oh my gosh, it's such a huge gift. You start to gain awareness more quickly. You're going to move up and out of things that are not a good fit with more clarity. And the surprises are less and less, or at least they're more happy surprises than painful surprises. How's that? Unless, of course, you keep making the same mistakes over and over again, which I've also been known to do at times. So no shame. But yeah, you really surprise yourself when you decide to show up and get visible. You surprise yourself with new friendships and unexpected collaborations and unexpected journeys. People start to show their real colors and it can be really, really surprising. And you also surprise yourself with feelings, thoughts, emotions, preferences you didn't even know you had. So that's lesson number 2. Lesson number 3, visibility is a two-way street. As I said in the beginning, this is a give kind of situation. When you decide to show up and be your fullest, truest self, it is a huge gift to other people. You are giving them a gift. You are giving a gift when you collaborate with other people, when you share with other people, when you connect with other people. And it is a gift to you too, when others take a chance on you, when they partner up with you, when they give you access to their platforms and their spaces, when you are allowed, I'm not going to say allowed, when you're asked to be visible, a guest on someone else's podcast, when you get an opportunity to present a workshop or meet with someone that you've been really wanting to meet with, they're giving a gift to you too. And that's why I just like visibility is a two-way street. It's not just another appointment in your calendar. It's not just another thing in your little day timer. It is really a gift. It's a gift of your time. It's a gift of your presence. It's a gift of your energy. And the other person is giving that back to you as well. And I think it's important to remember this because it's a nudge that we need to give gratitude to the people on our visibility journey that really are rooting us on and celebrating with us. Okay, visibility lesson number 4. You will have some hits and some misses. I think I've moved onto the other side of the fence that doesn't think that all visibility is good visibility, but I used to think that all visibility was good visibility, or at least I didn't think that there was bad visibility. But now I'm on the side of the fence where I don't think all visibility is the best use of your time and energy in actually getting visible. Like, I think there are a lot of opportunities that you just need to turn down and say no to. And it could be personality clashes, it could be values, target audience, misalignment, any number of reasons, but you do not need to say yes to everything. Now, as you get started and you are doing a lot of things and you are saying yes to a lot of things, sometimes you say yes to the wrong thing. You realize like, oh my gosh, I landed a podcast opportunity with someone whose questions guide me down this ridiculous path that has nothing to do with my business, nothing with what I came here to share. Or maybe you and the co-host of an event like clash really, really badly and you both walk away with a bad taste in your mouth. Sometimes even the stuff you think is not going so hot, it actually ends up like having a nice happy ending and scoring you a client or making a good connection. So there are great successes and there are also great flops. And I would just say that when you decide to show up and get visibility, use these. There are no mistakes, right? They're just all lessons moving forward with more to give you more clarity around who you want to connect with, who you want to collaborate with, what you want to be doing with them, and like why. And I really, as I've floundered a bit here and there, I've used that as just getting more certain of who I am, more certain of what I'm doing in the world and who with. And so I do kind of take like this like evaluative stance, a reflective stance on every opportunity, look at what went well, what didn't go so well, so I can use it as information to move forward with. That goes back to that experimentation I was talking about before too. Like this is all just kind of like information and data for your little experiment. But at the end of the day, if you have a feeling in your gut that something is just not for you for whatever reason, even if it seems like a great visibility opportunity, it feels like such a great invitation, like how could you turn this down? It's okay to say no and avoid opportunities like that or turn them down. And when you do, it's super cliche to say, but when you close a door, what is it? When you close a door, a window opens? I don't know. But there's another one waiting for you right behind it. That is a better and more right opportunity for you. Okay. Lesson number 5. This is my last one for you. When you decide to get visible, you are more visible. And I know you're like, what? No shit, Sherlock. Duh. But hang on, hear me out here, okay? If you really want to embark on this visibility journey, what is going to happen is as you take these steps, you will be seen by more people. This means more people will watch you make mistakes. More people will watch you pivot. More people will watch you change your mind and move messily about the cabin, right? More people are going to see those typos in your emails or hear the way that you say or you tisk your tongue too often. People are going to have thoughts about you. They might not like you. You might let some people down or not live up to their expectations or exceed their expectations and make them jealous. Not everyone is going to support you. Not everyone is going to continue to support you. People will copy you and steal your ideas. More people will hear your story and they might have their own thoughts and judgment about you. People will tell you what you should be doing and provide you with lovely unsolicited feedback and advice. And I can tell you that at times, this alone has almost crushed me and run me down. And what keeps me going is that I am committed to being myself and also showing up for myself. And showing up for yourself might mean that it's time for a change or leaving something behind or growing past something. And people are watching as that's happening. But these are not the things that I think that should be holding you back from being visible. These are not the reasons for you to stay hidden. In my opinion, this is part of it. Like this is the personal growth and development that I was talking about at the beginning. And I think this is exactly where life gives us this invitation to grow even stronger and to take those steps to show up and say, you know what? I am worth showing up for. Because when you get visible, you see others more clearly and you also see yourself more clearly. When others see you more, you also see you more. You see the parts of you that you love and the parts that you've tried to ignore or wish away. And it might feel a little bit like you're shining a light on the things about yourself you wanted to keep hidden. And now you're like working on them in live time, like in real time with people watching. But as I said, I think that it's about being committed to doing this inner work, to learning about yourself and recognizing that like it is okay to be you in this world, in the fullness of whatever that looks like. And if you don't decide to put yourself first, what I want to say is this. I think that that's often where that pendulum swing comes, where you hide and then you get visible. And then you hide and then you get visible. I've heard people describe it as like a quote unquote like visibility hangover because it does. It brings up stuff, okay? It brings up things in yourself. And that is why I think that showing up for yourself is the first and foremost thing that you can do before you start getting visible. You get visible. Okay, so let's tie these up in a little bow, shall we? So to wrap it up, visibility takes time and experimentation. When you get visible, you will surprise yourself and others will also surprise you. Visibility is a two-way street. It's a give. You will have some hits and misses, some flops, some lovely surprises, and some not so lovely surprises. When you get visible, you are more visible. And one thing I just want to add to all this is, as I've spent a lot of time experimenting and practicing with the marketing and visibility puzzle, I've learned that one thing I absolutely love doing is helping others explore this more deeply for themselves too, because I don't think there's just some simple, easy magic formula that applies to all of us, because I really think that we all need to show up in ways that feel really, really good and authentic to us in order for it to in order for us to want to be consistent with it, to want to stick with it. Because when we do, we can collaborate more richly. We can make deeper connections. We can feel like it's like a flow and it's easy and it's fun. And we can create content, be consistent, all of that with more ease, more creativity. It's truly lovely. And I also love thinking outside the box when it comes to visibility, which is why I'm so over the moon when I talk about my Marketing Momentum Lab. My Marketing Momentum Lab, if you haven't heard about it yet, it is a 6-week small group program that helps entrepreneurs focus on their visibility. And we really talk about being intentional with our visibility, what it looks like to show up. And we work through some of these things that get in our way so that you can take action steps regularly to increase your momentum, to show up in a way that feels really good to you. So if that's like, ooh, that does sound interesting, Emily, we kick off on Monday, July 31st. I would love to have you a part of it. There's going to be a link in the show notes. It is a cozy knit, really fun group. And in my opinion. So more information on that is available at marketingmomentumlab.com. I will also make sure that it's in the show notes to make your job easier. And in next week's episode, we're going to chit chat a little bit about social media. I will be diving into some of the many platform options on social, what I'm sort of seeing right now, and then how to figure out what is actually a good fit for you, where you might want to be spending your time, and how we can make those decisions about where we want to be, how we want to show up, so that we can show up intentionally on whatever platforms that we choose, and then confidently let the rest go. So I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Content with Character. If you loved the episode, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast, rate, review, and share it with someone else you know it could help. For more content and visibility tips, visit my blog at emilyaborn.com and be sure to connect with me on Instagram at emilyaborn. I'd love to hear how this inspired you to take action.